Alright, so in this video we are going to learn classes and modules in TypeScript. Now classes in TypeScript are very similar to classes introduced into ECMAScript 6 version of JavaScript. So let's open tsconfig.json and change this target property from ES5 to ES6. Save it. Come back to index.ts. Okay. Now I expect you to know the basics of classes into JavaScript. If not, I highly recommend you check out my JavaScript playlist, link of which would be found down below in the description. So we know that class is a blueprint for creating objects. Now objects are real world entities which are created using classes. So we create classes to ensure that these objects would follow some kind of structure. So if we have to create an employee object, we first have to create an employee class, and that class in the structure of the employee object. Okay, now all the objects I create from a certain class will have the same structure, and that's why we create classes. Okay, now to create the class we use the keyword class followed by the class name, like so, and then you have these opening and closing braces. Now here are the few tips regarding the class name. So class names should be nouns, okay, and it should be in mixed case with the first letter of each internal word capitalized. Now try to keep your class name simple and descriptive. Use whole words, avoid acronyms and abbreviations. Okay, now guys, this is a valid class and you can create an object from this class. Okay, and to do so you have to say const emp1 equal to new, and you say employee. Okay, like so, and you can create as many objects as you want. So you say emp2 equal to new employee. These are two different objects. Okay, they will be stored at different places in the memory. Okay, now we hover over this and we see this is a constructor. Okay, but we have not defined any constructor, meaning you get one out of the box. If you don't define your own constructor, you get one out of the box. When you define your own, you are overriding this called constructor. Okay, this employee class is currently empty. Okay, so what do I want to define within this class? So for that we have to open our application, and in here we see we have department, name, age, ishead, email. Okay, so when I click on the add button, okay, it is going to create an employee, and that employee will have all these values. Okay, so I'm going to create a class which is going to represent this employee object. Okay, so a class could have three things. Okay, properties, constructor, and methods. Okay, so what are our properties? We have department of type string. Okay, then we have name, again of type string. We have got age of type number. Then we have got isHead of type boolean. Okay, like so, and at the end we have email, again of type string. That's fine, we have created our properties, but we get an error. Let's read the error. Error says property department has no initializer and is not definitely assigned in the constructor. So guys, you can provide it some value. Okay, but then every object you create from this class will have this fixed value. If you want this value to be defined at the object creation time, the better way is we go for initializing this property from within the constructor. Okay, so then what is a constructor? The constructor is nothing, it's a special type of method which is called when creating an object. So while creating this employee object, okay, we want to set in all these properties, which means that it is going to be parameterized constructor, meaning this method will have certain parameters, right, which would be provided at the time of object creation, and whatever values that are provided to those parameters, right, will fetch those values and assign those to our properties. Make sense? And in TypeScript, the keyword that we have to use for creating the constructor is constructor. In other programming languages, we use the name of the class to create the constructor. Okay, so this is the signature. Now we have to pass in the parameters. So I'm just going to take a copy of all of these, just add the comma. Okay, I'm lazy. Now all we have to do is we have to say this dot department. Okay, so when I say this, what is that? So when you create employee 1 using this, right, so this refers to that. Okay, and in this particular case, this will be referring to emp2. Okay, so this dot department is equal to department. Now you can give any name, okay, any name to these parameters. Okay, I've just used the same name of the property. So this dot name is equal to name, this dot age is equal to age, this dot isHead is equal to isHead, and last one is this dot email is equal to email. Okay, now you see the error goes away. Okay, but down here we are seeing the error now. Why? Because now it is mandatory for us to provide all these values. IT, okay, then the next parameter is the name, so we provide in John Doe. Okay, next one is age, so we say let's say 32. Next is isHead, we say true, and the email we say j.d at c.com. Okay, let's keep it simple. All right, and in here we say non-IT, let's say. Then we provide in what should we say, Sam Doe. Okay, then we provide the age 40. We then provide in false, and then we say s.d at c.com. Okay, so now the error goes away from here as well. All right, makes sense. Next one is method, so we are going to create a method summary. Okay, and that is going to return a string like so, and we are going to run one check. If this dot isHead, okay, then we return one string, else we return a different string. Okay, now we are going to use the string literal syntax, so we just say this dot name, okay, leads this dot department and is so many years old. This dot age years old, and let's also provide in the email, so we say email hyphen dollar and like so, this dot email. Okay, so I'm going to copy this thing and come in here, paste it, but this time I'll say works into, and rest of the things would remain the same. Now why not we open index.js and check whether we see the same structure or not. And like we mentioned, right, classes are same in TypeScript and JavaScript, right? So you see the same thing in JavaScript as well. And of course types are missing in JavaScript, therefore all the type information is gone. Okay, you don't see the type information here. All right, great. So we have created our class successfully. We have created properties, we have initialized those properties in the constructor, we have also created a method, right? We have also instantiated these objects, so why not we log those to the console, console.log, and we say emp1 comma emp2. Let's save that and open our application. So we see the first employee, the second employee. Okay, great. So we have created now two employees from the class employee. Okay, so employee now is the data type of these objects. Okay guys, so we have created a new data type, a customized data type which contains all of these properties and methods. Make sense? Now access properties and invoke method, console.log, and you pass in, let's say emp1 dot name. This is what you want to access, and on the other object you just want to say console.log emp2 dot email, like so. You can do that. Okay, now to invoke the method, so again we have console.log and we say emp2 dot summary. We have the summary method. All right, so let's invoke that, save it, go back to our application. So that's the name of object 1, that's the name or email of object 2, and that's the summary method. Okay, all right, so change property outside the class. Okay, can I change these properties which are initialized using the constructor outside my class? Yes, I can do so. So I just say emp1 dot name is equal to, and I change it to, let's say, QA box. Okay, and I change the age of employee 2 to 50. Why not we just log these again? So we say employee 1 and employee 2. Let's save it, go back to application, and yeah, now we see QA box. Earlier it was John Doe. Okay, and the age of employee 2 is 50. Earlier it was 40. Great. Now, like I said, we have created a custom type employee now. So for example, let employees of type string array, and you initialize it to an empty array. Okay, and now you can insert string data into it, but because we have created our own data type now, can I say it like that? Yes, I can. Okay, and now in future, if you try to add in any other thing into it, okay, you just say push and you try to push in a string. Okay, we get an error. Argument of type string is not assignable to parameter of type employee. Okay, so this is not allowed, but you can definitely push employee 1 and employee 2. That is allowed. Okay, now let's print this array to the console. We say employees. Okay, like so. We save it. That is compiled. We're gonna go back to our application and we see this array as well now. Alright, so far so good. Now in part 14 of this video series, right, we created a folder structure for our project. Okay, let's see that. So we had classes, helpers, and interfaces, and we just created a class. So why not we move this class to this respective folder, and we got to create a file first, and we are going to say employee.ts, like so. Okay, we paste the class in here. Great, no issues. Now guys, the TypeScript code we write is in the global scope by default. It's important. It's important to understand this. So if we have multiple files in a project, the variables, functions, classes, etc. written in one file are accessible in all the other files. To prove that, let's move to index.ts and see if it is complaining about this employee. It's not, because it can access this. If I change it to something else, save it. Now it's complaining. Okay, because in this project we do not have an entity with the name employees. But if I change it back to employee, the error goes away, right? The same is applicable to variables and functions, like I mentioned. Now, the problem with this approach is that not only those are accessible, but also they are open to modification. And anybody can easily override variables declared in the global scope without even knowing that they are doing so. So this is a dangerous space and it can lead to conflict and errors in the code. Now, TypeScript provides modules and namespaces in order to prevent the default global scope of the code and also to organize and maintain a large base code. So modules are a way to create a local scope in the file. So all variables, classes, functions, etc. that are declared in a module are not accessible outside the module. A module can be created using the keyword export, and a module can be used in another module using the keyword import. So let's do that for our employee class. All you have to do is add this export keyword before the class keyword. Save it. Now you would start seeing this error. Cannot find employee. Okay. Alright, so how to fix that? So like I said, we have to import this. Okay, and to import that you have to say import, and we'll revisit these curly braces from, guys, we have to provide in classes the relative path of the module but of the JavaScript file. Why? Because in the browser we are going to load JavaScript and not TypeScript. Okay, so that's what you do. Now come back in here, press Control space, and now you see the module that you exported. So we see employee, and that's the best way of doing it, right? Rather than you typing it manually, just leave it first, right? Enter in the relative path, visit this again, and then just do Control space, and you see, and that way you will ensure that you have reached to the right place. Now the error goes away. Okay, so let's save it. Now go back to our application and we get an error. So it says exports is not defined. Now to fix this error, guys, we have to go to tsconfig.json, and to this module property we have to change it from common.js to es2015. We save it. Okay, but before we move on, let's understand one more thing in here, that please note that all modern browsers have support for ECMAScript 6 version. Old browser, notably Internet Explorer, support only ES5. Okay, so in my case I'm going to use Google Chrome, so this ES6 is fine. Okay, all right, so we come in here, cannot use import statement outside a module, so we got a different error now. And now to fix that, you again have to open Visual Studio Code, go to your index.html, scroll down to this script tag, and in here you have to add in one attribute, which is type, and you just set it to module, like so. Save it, open your application, and yay, everything starts working again. But there's still a problem. What is the problem? We go to network, and in here we see there's one request, one network request made for index.js, another one for employee.js. So in the real project, what we would like to do is we would like to have one single file for this page. Okay, and we can use webpack, okay, or require.js, some node modules to merge these different modules and generate one single JavaScript file to boost up the application performance, the client side application performance. Okay, so that's about classes and modules in TypeScript. Thanks for watching, and in the next video we would go over OOPS concepts in TypeScript. I'll see you there.